Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Good Stuff. I'm Kevin Bille, and as always, we appreciate you spending some time with us today. Hey, if you've liked these episodes, this is going to be number 43, which is crazy to me. But if you've liked these episodes up to this point, found some value in them, have passed them on, maybe even to some others, would you please do me a favor and head on over to YouTube, Good Stuff with Kevin channel, subscribe, hit those notification buttons, and you'll know when good interviews like this one come out. Well, hey, today we have Dr. Rob Belle on the show. I am just personally really looking forward to this because of the topic. Rob's a mental toughness coach. He's a speaker. He's an author. He's got like 17 titles here, but those are some main ones. But hey, Rob, it's a pleasure to have you here today.
Thanks, Coach, man. I appreciate it. Coaches are my favorite people, man. I love doing these.
Yeah, well, we're looking forward to this. As I was telling you off camera, it is a topic that I love and associate with. We got connected over social media. I love your Twitter feed. We'll touch base on that a little bit later, how people can find you. But a daily tweet from you that I have the utmost respect for. Two words: patience and persistence. Just tell me a little bit more about this to start off with, Rob.
It's, you know, I mean, Twitter is definitely my ADD. I mean, I love it. So when I get an idea, I just kind of throw it out there, and I try to be pretty consistent on that one every morning, kind of when I wake up. Problem is, I'm a 4:30 a.m. guy, so nobody's really on Twitter then. So sometimes I'll wait till after the workout's done. But I just really believe in those, man. I mean, it's so. I mean, I don't know if you're good at patience. I mean, I'm not because, I mean, one of my sayings is, I can't wait to be patient.
Mm.
And but it's a lot of times it's like, look, if Rob's in charge, man, I'm going to mess it up because I only know one speed, and that's full steam ahead. Now it's very successful in a lot of things, but patience is not a skill, man, I'm good at. And I think it's a
Yep.
reminder that I need to do. And then the other part is just persistence, man. I think when we have that vision, that dream about where we want to go, that's really all it takes is if we just keep moving. And I believe in both of those. I mean, if you have the patience to see it through, if you have the persistence, you will be successful. It's kind of a guarantee. But when we don't do either of those, so really, man, I tweet those out every morning because it's a reminder for myself. And, if I can help other people out with it, great. But it's usually just for me, man.
Yeah, well, it's you and me, so it does work for me. I think those are two words that definitely resonate along the way. Now, this mental toughness thing that was my initial attraction to you. I'd just be interested to know right from the get go, how would you personally define mental toughness? Because I'm sure if I asked this question to 10 different people in whatever roles or capacities, I'd probably get 10 different answers. And not that any are right or wrong, right? But where you've got a great idea about what this is. You live it personally, you write about it, you study it. What is it to you, Rob?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm glad you said that too, because I think if you ask, I mean, everyone has their own definitions. I think they just kind of made it up, and I think there's a lot of elements that are good to it. But I mean, I like to go with science when it comes to this, and that was like Jim Lair, 1986 for mental toughness. How do you define it? It's how we cope with the struggle. It's how we deal with adversity and how we handle the setbacks. Now, I kind of added a little bit of my own language in that, but that's it. It's how we handle the setbacks in life and how we deal with the adversity. That's all mental toughness is. The other element about mental toughness is how we perform under pressure. And
Mm.
that's where those
Mhm.
specific mental skills can definitely come into place. But that's all it is. I'm a jeans and t-shirt kind of guy, man. I try to keep this as simple as we can. And it's a matter of when we're going to face adversity, but that's the key is, I've got my podcast, 15 minutes of mental toughness coach, and everyone that I'll ask, they define it different, but adversity is always in it.
Yep.
And so we have to have adversity in order for us to have that grit, resiliency, or mental toughness. What I believe, man, is it's not about the setback. Like we're gonna fall, we're gonna fail, but it's
Yeah.
always about that comeback. The other
Yeah.
part about the other part about mental toughness, coach. Sorry to cut you off, man. I
You're all
need
right.
to
You're good.
add that I need to add is I think it's caught more than it's taught.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is I think it's the experiences, it's the coaching that we have, but it's going through that. You can tell somebody, hey man, what it's like to jump out of an airplane, but unless you really experience it, you don't know. You don't know what that feeling's like to really train for that marathon or that ultra. don't know what it's like to have that 10-foot putt for $60,000 or 600,000
Mhm.
unless you go through that. And that's the piece. It's like if you want to reach that ultimate level, you're going to have to go through it. And that's
Yeah,
where I think the mental toughness is caught. And that's sort of the fun part is you get to learn more about yourself.
for sure, for sure. I just recently saw a clip on Kobe. And I've always liked or respected him, and now that you see so much more of it now, and he talked about mental toughness, a lot of things you alluded to already, but then also having the ability when there's pain or discomfort, whether that's physical, emotional, whatever it is, but how can you disconnect yourself and get yourself in a place that's not, you're present, but it's not there where it's affecting you and the job that you have to do. And I never really looked at it that way. And that could be as simple as me sitting in the ice bath, requiring some mental toughness, or it was going through something physical or whatever it was. But I thought that was a unique perspective.
It is, man. And it manifests itself different ways for whichever kind of situation we're going to be in. So, in the ice bath, you just have to do what you don't want to do. I mean, you just have to endure that pain. If it's going to be a situation like a basketball game or golf where we make a mistake, to really truly forget about that mistake and to move on and stay in that moment. Because where's that one mistake want to sit? Wants to sit, man, if you just would have did this
Yeah.
move, you would have had it. And so every kind of situation is a little bit different. I mean, I know my skill, man, is never giving up.
Mhm.
The other ones, it's tough. Letting
Yeah.
go of mistakes, making a double bogey in golf, it's really difficult. But that's the part of that mental toughness. I think everyone's a little bit different. Everyone has these strengths. It's just knowing, and that's where I think, especially in life, man, if we can work on those strengths, not just try to develop the weaknesses, but really perfect those strengths.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's how we get so much better in whatever our
Yeah.
passion is going to be.
Yeah, I agree. I subscribe to that as well. That's why I've always loved basketball. I said, Rob, because like you can make a mistake and a second later you can make up for it. Golf, you might have to wait 15 minutes to that next shot. Interception in football, you might have to wait 15 minutes. Strike out, you might have to wait, an hour. So I'm a little more biased to the basketball thing. I want to get definitely to the 80-foot cliff fall, but this mental toughness, I'd be really intrigued to hear from you. Like when I talk to people about leadership, the old discussion that I don't know that it will ever die is, were you born with it or was it developed, right? Where does that fall with mental toughness, Rob? Like, is that something that I guess I'm biased maybe to what I think it is, but I'd really like you to dive into that a little bit for listeners, because maybe somebody's listening to this right now. And as we deep dive into this a little bit more, they're thinking, man, I'm just not that good at this. I wasn't born with it. How do I get better at it? So where do you lie at when it comes to that?
Yeah, absolutely, man. And it's so if we look at it in terms of speed, so some people are born faster than others. You can get it, right? But everybody can get faster if you work at it. So in mental toughness, the brain is a muscle. The more we work at it, the better we're going to get. It's just a lot of times like, well, how do I work on that things? Like, how do I work on my patience? How do I work on my communication? Anything that we practice in life, we get better at. So the point of where we look at it's like, wow, that person, no matter what they're going to be and they're going to be successful. I tell you what, it was the experience, it was growing up, and it was a point in their life, and I just call them these hinge moments that morph them and shape them into somebody who would not be denied. And no matter what they were going to do, they weren't going to be denied. They were going to
Love it.
find that way. And that's really all it comes down. So anybody that's listened to it though that thinks I'm just really not that good at it, that's that negative viewpoint. That right away, that's the point that you got to change. Because if you really want it bad enough, if you're willing to do whatever it takes, see, that's the thing. We hear about it, it's cliche, do whatever it takes. What they really mean is, okay, I'm going to do whatever it takes up to the point of where I don't want to do it
That's
anymore
right. Discomfort or yeah, any of that.
or where it gets really tough.
Yep.
But that's where, farmers, people, boy, what kind of coach doesn't want a farmer on their team, right? Because I mean, that's somebody who, but the cows don't care whether you're tired or not. They got to be milked, and that's the person that's going to keep showing up day after day. And that's the skill, man. That's really all that it takes when it comes to it, man. It's just, hey, it's going to be so much more harder than what we think it's going to be. That's the part that nobody goes into this year saying, man, this year isn't going to
Yeah.
be that good. Everyone has that viewpoint of when this year is the year.
Mhm.
but it's only when then we're really faced with that major setback. So it's something that gets nurtured. People are better at it naturally, but it's something that's always gets nurtured, man. And our circumstance and our experience is what shapes it.
Well, and when I go through some of this, and then we'll dive into these hinge moments, I really think of Tim Kite. I don't know how much of him you follow. We had Tim on here, that E plus R equals O. I feel like that's a main point with all this. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's our response to these events that are occurring that's going to equal the outcome. Is that kind of what you're saying?
I believe champions adjust. No question. If you show me a champion, that it's somebody that's going to be able to adjust, whether it's evolution, whether it's business, or whether it's athlete or coach in a game, man. It's how we adjust to that stuff.
Yeah.
The other part that I kind of add to it is, that's on the back end of things. On the front end is you have to have that white hot vision about what it is that you really want.
Mm.
Because if you have that white hot vision, when you start to get success, it's you're not going to get stifled from the success. And that's where then even mental toughness becomes more important off the pitch, off the court, outside of the swimming pool or the golf course, whatever it is, then it becomes actually on it.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Well, hey, we're going to dive into more of this a little bit later, but I'm going to make a reference right now to Puke and Rally, your new book here that you sent me, and I could not put it down, and I mean that it was really really good, And in that book, you talk about with the door hinge. You mentioned some of those hinge moments, and you just referred to that a little bit ago, and I'm referencing that cliff fall that maybe you can dive into a little bit, but it's that it's born out of the hardship and the rest. And I think you and I were talking earlier, like resiliency and perseverance to me is everything. I can't say enough about it. But what do you think, like when it comes to that? Like, is that mental toughness? Is that just part of it? Is that what it's really associated with when it comes to those traits and when it comes to these hinge moments that you're referring to? Like, is that what you center it all around, if you will?
So if we think about like what's the importance of mental toughness? So in today's society, do we really need to be mentally tough? Because we can kind of survive, in the mediocrity of life and kind of get along well, and we just kind of live a different kind of life. It's only for those that really want to achieve that full potential, to be the absolute best that they can, and to get everything, to squeeze the nectar out of life, man. So then what's the importance of it? And the real importance of mental toughness is that every single one of us is getting ready for that one moment, one experience, or one person that's going to make all the difference in our lives.
Mm.
It's going to connect who we currently are with who we're going to become. The importance of mental toughness is we don't know what that moment is going to be or who that person is. So every catch that we make, every practice that we encounter, every call that we have is the most important one, and that's what requires the discipline and the focus and the belief in ourselves that this could possibly be the person. It doesn't mean to weight one person more than somebody
Right,
else,
right, right.
or to weigh, hey, this could really be it. It's the fact that because we don't know, because we can't connect the dots looking forward, how do we approach it? And that's where I look at then on the back end. If you look back at any life, any important game, it comes back to one play, one catch the
Yeah,
ball,
yeah, yeah.
one moment that's going to make all the difference. The tragedies that happen in our life, they're immediate hinges because from that moment on, everything is different. And that's then the real importance of the mental toughness.
That's good. I guess maybe this is a little bit personal, but I'm wondering if there's others that fit underneath an example like this. So I'm not maybe trying to be selfish here and trying to find this for myself, but I would be interested, and then maybe if others can relate to it. Like my enjoying pain, discomfort, struggle, adversity, fill in the blank. Is that a result of my athletic background, my upbringing? Like I look forward to those things, Rob. Like I know how much I grow out of discomfort. I know how much adversity makes me better. And so it's easier for me. Like I'm at a level of peace and alignment in one way with faith, of course, but then in my overall, attack on life, like I love that stuff. So where is it rooted at, or can others relate to that? And some, am I making sense? And like to what that may be for somebody else?
It's about being in the field, man. It's about being in the game, man in the arena. If if we're on the sidelines of life, it's just we're just living a different kind of life. And so I think when it comes to that, I relate to it because when I look back at my soccer experience and it was running that hill, that when coach said you don't have to run this hill, like you get to run the hill.
That's right.
And so you take that perspective into that pain, and it's only through the pain and suffering that happens in life do we really then develop the gratitude and perspective that we need. We take things for granted so often. The ice that's going to be in, there every morning when I'm, getting my water ready. I take that for granted. And it's only through going through suffering do we really find meaning in our experience and what we're trying to do. And so when we can create it for ourselves, that's how then I think we get better at being able to deal with it. And then, there is that physiological benefit that I think you get from it. But, people want to think that suffering is a bad thing. And it's painful when we go through it, but it's the bad waves that make for good surfing, man.
It-
And I always say growth, you can't spell growth without ow. It's gonna hurt, man. It's just being able to embrace it. But that, buddy, I like it, man. I love that pain.
yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, not always, but it's that's the opportunity of the pain and then how we're going to be able to deal with it. If any of us have been in those situations where the pain hits and we succumb to it, meaning we give in just a little bit, the pain of regret outweighs the discipline piece.
Mhm.
Knowing that, man, if we just hung in just a little bit more, that we could
Right.
have sustained it. And that's where I think the pain, we just look at as an opportunity. So I think that's the part where you've shaped your mind that way, man, and I have too. It's just wanting that.
But why is it? And one of my greatest struggles, Rob, that I'll openly admit is when I don't understand other people. Yeah, I struggle with, like, I read a lot. I listen to podcasts. It's just a constant growth, right? And I don't know of many people, and maybe it's just who I'm following or so on and so forth. And I respect that, where they're not saying things that you're not saying. It's all aligned that all this is healthy. So if we know that it's healthy, why are we avoiding it? And why are people standing on the sidelines, as you would say in the book?
Well, because we think that we can stand on the sidelines and still be successful in life. And that's the thing. That's where, the mediocrity piece comes into play. I mean, we can have a very mediocre life and really not have to challenge ourselves a lot. And the fact of like, look, man, the amount of discipline that it takes is, and just on the discipline piece, is every single morning, not just 4 times a week. It's every single morning. And so it's a whole new lifestyle of what you have to develop. Like people that will set New Year's resolutions and goals, it's only when you can take that next leap of this has to be complete lifestyle and embodiment and immersion into what I'm doing that I'm willing to do whatever it takes in that extra mile piece. Um, if you look at it, it's a whole lot easier to do nothing than it is to do something. It's like I see that all the time. And think about it, right? Even if it's just like with general life sort of things, like, man, do I really feel like taking my kid here to, go swimming when, I could
Right.
just say, well, why don't we just go later? That's that mental toughness battle right there where our mind automatically just wants us to be safe. And that's what it boils down to. Our mind's job is to keep us safe. Doesn't want us to reach our goals, doesn't care about our goals, just wants to stay safe. What's the way we stay safe, man? Stay on the couch in front of the TV or stay inside bed. You're not going to get hurt. You're just not going to reach the goals. And so we have to have that struggle with our own mind, which again has a strategic advantage over us because knows our weaknesses and it's to be able to battle that all the time. Knowing that even when we're going to that battle that we're going to have losses, and it's being able to go through the reflection piece and be able to look at it and say, man, what did I do wrong here? How do I get better? That's a lot of work.
Yeah.
And are we willing to do all that stuff? People, when they say, man, we'll get better every day, they think it's just on the physical piece. It's not on the reflection piece, the note taking piece, and where I failed and came up short. That's the analytical piece that we got to be able to look at.
So I'm gonna go to a part in the book, and then just something I thought of. You talk because I think to my I think the first thing is like, are people, you talk about perfection, not realistic, it's unattainable. So does that mean it's not healthy? Like, I'm really interested in that because I don't know if that's a standard that we set for ourselves. And is that, is that unhealthy? I guess would be the first part. And then do people struggle with, like, for example, I have a habit tracker and there's certain things I want to do every day, but I don't get them done every day, but I don't consider myself a failure because I didn't do them. And I regroup, if you will, the next morning. So does that make sense? Kind of where I'm going with that two-part question of that perfection wearing me out, plus being vulnerable enough to know that, hey, you know what? I didn't get it done today.
Yeah. The perfection piece. So it has two components to it. One, you have the striving for perfection, the fact that I'm studying for this test to get 100%. How many of us do that to begin with? Those that are listening to it and that, man, yeah, I'm geared for 100% in everything that I do, right? So they're already geared that way. I think it's fine, man. I mean, what is a matter with trying to do your absolute best on things, knowing how much effort that takes into it? But then you have the flip side of it. You have the flip side of it that you get a 92 and then that just eats you up and that's
Right.
unacceptable to you. Now that becomes unhealthy because now we can't accept the outcome. And we can't accept that outcome, we can't adjust from it. And that's the piece where only when it comes, man, the striving for perfection is awesome, man. Do it. Absolutely. That's the goal. Why not? But it's really about progress. And then the progress can only take place when we are allowing ourselves the room to be okay with not being perfect. That's where it comes into play.
Yeah, because man, you hit this old adage in that book about the negative outweighing the positive. It's why we hate to lose more and we love to win. And I always have said there's a difference. If you love to win, I don't want you in my foxhole. I'd rather have you hate to lose. There's a difference to me when it comes to that. I also you talked about, and I'd like you just to dive into this a little bit, the Saban quote. And I love this. What does it take to break you? Or I like the Mike Tyson quote here too, Rob, that everybody has a plan until you get punched in the face, right? So
Did I
what
put that
is
one in there?
no, I don't think so. That's just more.
Oh,
I like that one, and I thought of that when I read the Saban one. Both are kind of the same thing, if you will, right? I mean, so he's looking for that. What does it take to break you? And I love that. You go into that game, you've got everything, and all of a sudden something happens. Somebody's hurt, foul trouble, whatever it is. Now you've been punched in the face. It's kind of going back to what we talked to about a little bit earlier, but dive into that Saban one or even that Tyson one, if you will, a little bit.
yeah, it's a good one, man. And the reason why I'm kind of laughing because you said that is because there are some things that draw my ire. And one of them is like Joe Lewis said that quote first.
Okay,
It just got so popularized, and Mike Tyson kind of twisted a little bit. But Joe Lewis was the one that said it, man, the brown bomber,
I
and
didn't
it's
know
like,
that.
yeah, it's because it
Okay.
gets attributed to Mike Tyson all the time. It's like, man, it's like, that's how I knew I didn't put that one in the book, man, because I was
Okay,
like,
yeah.
no,
I gotta give
uh,
credit where credit's due now because I have that in my speeches, so
no, but again, it was close, right? But yeah, I mean, the point is true, man. It's like everybody has that plan. And when I speak to boxing coaches, I ask them, how do you know when a boxer really is tough? And they said when they get it kicked out of them and they're able to show up the next day. And it's the fact that, look, bad stuff is going to happen. Stuff is going to go wrong. What is it that gets you off your game enough that you're not able to be clear, or the goal gets off? um, and that's where it's about being able to adjust, being able to come back. I mean, the best coaches, man, what do? They make the halftime adjustments, right? They
yeah,
see what's working, they see what's not, and their ability to adjust. That's really when it comes to mental toughness, is being able to be in that moment and make the adjustments that are going to be needed.
yep, yep,
Um, that's why I look at that quote, man. Of
that's good.
Yeah, makes
Yeah.
sense, man.
So where does 2020, and this pandemic and all this fit? And even I'd be anxious, for your biggest your takeaway of what you learned from this or just seen in general, because I think this has gotta fit perfect with everything that's going on.
Well, a couple points to it. I mean, because I know there was a lot of empathy, I think, that went on with a lot of people, especially with our house. That a lot of people struggled with it. Not only those that experienced it, but family members that experienced it. But the piece of mental toughness sometimes it's just revealed our level of mental toughness. And so we talk about like, adversity. Adversity by itself doesn't build anything. It's how you debrief from it, it's how you coach from it. And it reveals then that level of mental toughness that we had. And when we look back at 2020, I think that's what it revealed. It revealed in a lot of us, man, those that were really focused on the process and those that were not able to adjust about what was going on. Even if you look at the industries, I mean, look at the business industry. I mean, the travel and, support industry, the hotel industry, I mean, they were ransacked, right? And that's awful. Those that were able to adjust, man, that money went someplace else. It didn't just disappear.
Right.
So where did it go? And it's those that are able, that's where I think like the creative mind, those that are able to look at that and pivot, and those that, and I don't really like using that pivot word, that one gets thrown out there, and the new
Yeah.
normal things. I mean, but these things happen every 6, 7, 8 years. That bad stuff's going to happen, and how are we going to adjust to it, and how are we going to keep moving forward and moving on? And that's the part where it just gets back to, it reveals our level of mental toughness and where we're at and where we lack and where we need to get better at, man.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, I
But
struggle with.
can I add one more thing, Coach?
Yeah, yeah. So please.
The biggest piece, which was so troubling, is the isolation that it caused with all of us. And
Yeah,
isolation is what breeds the depression. It's what breeds the anxiety, because
yeah.
we're not meant to do life on our own.
Yep, yep.
And that's the piece too, where even moving forward now, we still have that fear mentality that people aren't looked at as connections to be made, but that they're threats that, I need to stay my distance from this person. And it's being able to, we even have to overcome that mental shift, because
Mhm.
are we willing to put ourselves out there? Once fear is interesting, because fear has a little bit of truth to it, right? If that ball hits you, it's gonna hurt. You know, the coach that says that it's not gonna hurt is lying, right?
Right.
It's gonna hurt. The problem is it's not going to kill you. And two, it's gonna wear off. So the fact of like I mean, fear takes us further than we want to go, and it keeps us longer than we want to stay.
Yeah, yeah.
That's the thing to it, but there's that truth to it. So progressing like in life, there's going to be that fear, that film of fear that we still need to be able to overcome to be able to reach that goals and be able to help others along the way.
Right. Yeah, and how far are you gonna allow yourself to get down that rabbit hole, if you will,
Right.
right? And going back to your point earlier, Rob, it's not yeah, I lack empathy more than anything else probably at times. And it's not that I don't in this situation, so don't hear me out, but I don't want to say take advantage of the situation. I hope you understand what I mean by that, but there is a certain person mentality once again that is going to take advantage of what it is, and I have the utmost respect for the people that haven't sat around for their businesses and felt sorry for themselves. They've adjusted or adapted, like you said, pivot, however you want to say it, and those are the ones that have thrived through this, and I think they've showed a true mental toughness through that we can use as an example moving forward. So I think that, yeah, I think that's commendable. In terms of the book here a little bit, I definitely want to talk about a couple parts, and then we'll wrap up with the rapid fire here. I got to admit, when I first came across it, the book title was surprising to me, Puke and Rally. Um, and then when I started reading it, at times you were testing my mental toughness of not getting sick, because when I think of puking, I'm like one of those guys that, it almost makes me sick. But man, how did you come up with this title? Like, and ultimately, I guess I really am concerned with your why in terms of writing the book. I think I can probably identify with it now that I've read it and talked to you and followed you. But what would you say to that title and your why, please?
So there was, I like my competitions now are ultra marathons, so 2020 I raced a 100 miler, but there's a 100 miler this year coming up. And, in these ultra races, man, the first 6 hours or even Ironmans would actually go fine, but it'd be the last four, and I would just have these gut issues, man. And the very first story in that book in particular, was a race that I was determined to finish and was gonna finish. And it's back to that original point. Look, if you set it up that no matter what, and this is what I really believe, no matter what, that you're gonna reach that goal, you're gonna do it. I believe it. I know that to be true. Even slow walkers arrive, coach, right? but
Love it.
we have the expectations that get in the way, man. We have other people's belief patterns, other people telling us we can't do it, other people, what they think of it. And it's just all that stuff that gets in the way. So the fact of puking is we've all done it and we all can relate. You know, the reason why rat poison is so effective is because rats lack the ability to puke. They can't throw up. If we have rat poison, we're going to throw up, man, because it's actually going to save us. And when we puke, man, we always feel better. It's just we don't want to go through it. Like I hate throwing up, man. I don't want to go through that stuff.
Mhm.
But it's not about the setback, it's about the comeback. How are we going to rally? How are we going to come back? How are we going to deal with that? I've never dealt with a professional athlete, and I'm going to use the C word here, right? I've never dealt with a professional athlete that hasn't choked under pressure. The only way you get to be a pro athlete or at the very top
Yep.
is to go through that. And then to be able to debrief it and have the coach debrief it with you, man. What did you learn? Where'd your mind go? It's the only way to reach it. But you got to be willing to go to that point, man, and be able to go
Yeah.
to that. And, that's the part where we have these doorways in life that we all have to walk through.
Mm.
No one, I mean, people can take us up to it, but only we can walk through it.
Right.
And the puke and rally, man, it's like the purpose that I think that we have in life is what has to drive us. It's not our sport, it's not what we do, man, but what's the big purpose to it? How are we going to help others along with it, man? And when we have that purpose, it automatically takes us to a next level
Yeah.
because we can't deny then what our inner spirit is about.
Yeah. That's yeah. I probably shouldn't eat lunch before this interview. I'm starting to get a little stomachy. No, as we talk. No, I mean this with all respect. I hope you know the compliment. Like I've had people tell me I'm crazy, but after reading about that story you first finished, you are crazy, and I mean that in the highest regard. But what an
Yeah.
awesome story. And you'd say in there, puking's not an option, which I totally subscribe to. Rallying, however, is a choice. Like speak into that because I think this is so key and so crucial. I want people to grasp what you're saying here, Rob.
The fact of, and if you look at like puking too, so puking, the way that I look at it a lot and is, when you have that teacher, it's going to tell you, boy, you're going to end up just like your brother. When you have that coach that tells you, man, you're not going to be able to play at this level. How that's a puking moment because that is so gut wrenching to hear that, especially from somebody that's close to you. And they're imposing their will on you, telling you you can't do something. And a lot of people then are going to listen to that voice. They're going to say, yeah, you're right. I can't. And that's the part where rallying then is not a choice. It's not an option. Then you tell me, why is it that everybody who's been successful at some point in their life, they were told, you can't do it. That's a
That's right.
bad idea. Don't try it. Why was it that they became successful? Because only after we puke do we have that choice. And the choice is we're going to listen to that one person that says we can't do it, or we're going to listen to ourselves. We're going to prove that person wrong and prove ourselves right, or we're just going to listen to that negative voice and then we just again back to living a different kind of life, man. And the problem with that is it's always going to knock on you. It's always going to tap you on the shoulder and say, hey, remember that vision that we had? What happened to that?
Yep.
And the majority of people don't rally. That's the truth. It really is, right? It's back to that original point, man. It's like, look, it's a whole lot easier to do nothing than it is to do
Yep.
something. I mean, how many, and this is the thing that I like too, right? If you're going to talk about entrepreneurs, when people are mentioning entrepreneurs or using this person as an example, what they're using is the same 10 or 20 people as every example that you can reach in life, like Elon Musk or Gary Vaynerchuk. And it's wonderful, and nothing that they have is wrong. But man, you're saying that you can be Tiger Woods. And that's just not reality, right? It's not like you're not going to reach that level of Elon Musk, man,
Yep.
which is cool. But they're not, I'm just not saying, man, that you still can't reach that goal and reach peace and happiness in your life because you have the vision of what you want. that's the piece that we get back to, man. It's not about being a billionaire, man. It's about having peace and satisfaction of knowing you did the best that you could with what you were dealt with. And then you tell me, then why is it that people who are, have lost a limb have greater life satisfaction than somebody who's a millionaire? You would never pick that person that they would have greater life satisfaction, but they were actually given the gift, and the gift was of appreciation and perspective and gratitude. And that's what then is boiling down to. That's where it comes back to the rallying as a choice. And what we're always going to get back to is the people that we surround ourselves with, the impact that we make on other people's life, and the purpose that we have far outweighs than the accomplishments that we get. And then that's the piece, man, that lasts way beyond when our sport or our task is going to be over, is the people that we've impacted. And that's where it then becomes, man, that rallying is always a choice. And the confidence is competence. It's who we surround ourselves with.
Beautiful, man. So yeah, it's great. I think two other points I don't want to let go that really resonated with me, Rob. There was a quote in there: "You have the talent to succeed, but do you have the courage to fail?" I think that's a huge thing with mental toughness is the courage to fail and embracing that. And then you also alluded in that this was more towards the beginning of the book too. It was, if you do anything worthy, or significant, people around you will criticize you. Whereas the only way to avoid that criticism, you're saying, is not by doing anything at all and staying on those sidelines. And so I think that the courage to fail, and then to just step out there, like me just doing this with you right now, I'm going to get criticized. Somebody's not going to like the way I did this, or so on and so forth. It would be a lot easier, once again, as you said, to just me and you not to do anything, not to write this book, not to have this conversation, so on and so forth. So you can speak to those a little bit, where you see those fit in the great scheme of all this. I think those are two big things with mental toughness, Rob.
Yeah, they don't boo nobodies. That's Reggie Jackson, man. If they're talking about you, buddy, you're doing something right. Because they don't boo nobodies. You're not. And what it is, and it gets back to, I mean, we've heard this one before, right? Like, because they haven't done something, they want to tell you that you can't do it. And it's the whole crab mentality, right? You put a bucket of crabs, you put crabs in a bucket, and they keep pulling each other down. They keep pulling each other down. So it's that mentality of, hey, be good, but don't be too good, because then that's just going to illuminate that I'm not good enough.
That's right.
Look, the only way is to have other people around you that are better, that are smarter, to be able to push you. And I get it's painful. It's not fun going through that. It's but it's the way that we get better ourselves.
Mm.
And that's where I look at, well, then what's true success? True success is, and this is what I struggle with too, man. Um, when other people mention a book other than Puke and Rally, I want to mention Puke and Rally. But if they mention another book, it doesn't mean Puke and Rally ain't a great book. It's the fact of, like, we all can be successful there but it's the mentality of, is that we sit down and there's only one slice of pie and we got to get that slice.
Mhm.
The scarcity mentality is what we all buy into, and that's what we get, and that's where the fear is. We're going to be criticized. It's a good thing. The thing I think that we struggle with is that we don't want to deal with is, it's nice to be liked. It's nice to get the pats on the back. Who doesn't want that? We do want that, but we have to be able to check ourselves and be like, is that the goal? Is the
Yeah.
goal to be liked? Because you can go out there and buy likes,
Yeah. Yeah.
but you can't buy the fact of, are you doing something that is going to be life changing? Are you doing something that's worthy of criticism? It's only the criticism, it's actually the gift when you get it.
Yeah.
Because when you get the criticism, you're either going to agree with that criticism or you're going to agree with yourself. You can't be on the fence when it comes to that stuff. And that's really then when it becomes the gift. So I always say, it's like, I like the criticism. I like looking for it, and I like to see, is there something in that I can learn from it? But I'm glad that you criticize it, and I never really thought about that. My always response, especially because it's going to be on social media, people aren't criticizing you to your face, right? They criticize your face, man. That's great. That's a person that you really want to have on your side, because that means they have guts.
Yeah.
So the criticism that happens online or through social media, the way that we just navigate that is be like, boy, that's a great point. I never thought about it that way.
Right. Yeah.
But we don't seek to understand, right? We seek to be understood. And that's the problem with, our climate today is conversations don't happen, man. They just, we don't try to listen and learn. We try to talk and tell, and we just want to hear what our viewpoint is, or go with other people that agree with our viewpoint or viewpoint that we agree with, and not try to understand what is the other point that people are trying to say.
And I think, and I'm glad you touched on the success thing because I was going to wrap up with that. So, but I really think it's hard to just to follow that up. It's really hard to earn the respect and credibility if you're not willing to, that man in the arena and accept that criticism as part of that process. So I think that's important. And just for any of the listeners, I just encourage you to keep going, and don't let that affect you. It's part of it. And if you're getting it, I think that's a really good thing.
Can I add one
Um,
thing, Coach?
yeah, please do.
The reason why I hate sports media is because that whole landscape has changed now. That, man, they never talk about the team. They're always going to talk about the individual. But if you watch the highlights, right? Like, watch the highlights. They're going to show a drop. They're going to show somebody miss a shot that has absolutely no bearing on the outcome at all. But because it was LeBron, right? Because
Yep.
it was a star, they want to show him missing that dunk. And that's what sports media does, man. So we already get into this mindset of, failing is not okay because you're going to get highlighted for that stuff, right? Well, I tell you what, man, do you really think LeBron cares about what Sports Center says? Because you don't get to be at that level if you really care about what other people think that way. So the fact of that's where the media, tries to perpetuate this negativity that's always happening, when and what it's really doing, and you got to look at it, is look at the people who are successful, that they didn't fall there, right? They climbed that mountain and they got there for a reason. Why are they being criticized? Back to the original point, man. They don't boo nobodies.
Yep. Yep.
Sorry for the tangent, man.
And he's and everybody else that's at that level, they invest in what matters and what you're saying, what doesn't matter. Hey, we're
And,
gonna
and
go
see
wrap.
and see what I did there, right? I mentioned the best basketball player of all time, arguably. I didn't talk about the backup player for the
Right.
Kings, right? I always talked about the absolute best. That's who I'm always referring to when it comes to these things.
Yeah. Yeah. The standard
Interesting
is
standpoint, man. Sorry.
no, no, that's good. Well, hey, I'm gonna let you stay at the top of the key here for this rapid fire since that's your
The
sweet
only
spot.
spot I can hit.
I won't put you in the
I
corners and
wouldn't say it's my sweet spot. It's the only spot I can hit, man.
well, I won't put you in the corner and expose you since you told me not to.
All right.
So three questions here to finish, Rob. Number one, if people could take one thing from this talk and just something you want them to grab hold of and hold on to, what would that one thing be?
The real gift is to be told that you can't do something. That's the real gift, man. And even though it's painful, it's the part of it's only when we're told that can we really then achieve full success.
Good, good. If Rob could have come over today in Kevin's shoes and asked Rob a question, what question would have you asked that I did not ask yet?
That's the question I ask on my podcast. Like, what question should I be asking? I'm not asking. It makes everybody pause.
Yeah.
It makes everybody pause. And the question then that I always like to get back to is, um, what I've seen in life is like, hey, what's the differentiator?
Mm,
And a differentiator then is like, you can be a really great athlete and not be a good person, but great people make great athletes because it's not about them and they're focused on a bigger purpose. And you can just see it, man, that, um, the faith drives them, the family drives them, but it's the bigger purpose about what we have to have that's going to take us further than we really ever thought we could go.
it's good. It's good. Well, hey, last thing, good stuff is the name of this. You you've given us plenty of good stuff already, but like, well, what's anything you feel is appropriate that you could just give us some good stuff in closing before we wrap up with some of the things that you're doing?
Well, I appreciate that, man. I mean, everybody can check out Puke and Rally. It's not about the setback; it's about the comeback. It's always on pukeandrallybook.com, man, or drrobbell.com, and Twitter and Instagram. It's just at Dr. Rob Bell. It's where, yeah, I'm all about mental toughness, man, and family, and it's really difficult. It's really difficult to reach what it is that we want to reach, and you can post a picture of yourself and look really good and then have some kind of pithy saying to it. It's awesome. But the real work is in that climb, and it's going to be in that discovery. And it's going to be the time that you're alone with yourself that is where the mental toughness takes hold and takes shape. And then that's what really matters, man. So when those moments hit, it's too late to prepare, man. You're ready. And that's the point of it, man. That's the purpose.
3 for 3, man. Knocked him down.
Yeah, it's
Hey,
always it's always about catching it in rhythm, right? Don't you have to catch it in rhythm?
that's right. Well, hey, let's just a little bit more here. I know you've alluded to all these, and but the website, just tell them to. I mean, there is that podcast. There's a blog. I don't know that you've mentioned yet. There's some speaking. You've got a ton of things on there. If you want to dive into that just a little bit more, and those taglines once again, please on social media with all those platforms, so we can follow you, Rob.
Yeah, man, you can always reach out to me, buddy. I love replying to people. Always get back to them at some point, if you just be patient with me. And sorry, man, I didn't mean to take that 3 pointer and use those plugs in.
That's all
Maybe I
right.
kind of hesitated, but it's pukeandrallybook.com, and just it's at Dr. Rob Bell, DrRobbell.com, and the same thing for Twitter and Instagram, brother.
Yeah, and yeah, get on that website. It's good. And hey, man, this was really good, Rob. I find it
Thanks,
to
Coach.
be really interesting. I appreciate the small glimpse, if you will, into your world. It's obvious how much you know and offer, when it comes to this topic. I'm not. I'm a very transparent and open person, so I'm not saying this to make you feel better. I really really enjoyed this book. I'd highly encourage it for people. I think it's really really good. So hey, thanks for spending some time with us today. This was once again really good. I appreciate it, Rob.
We never asked about the cliff, man. We never got to
Yeah, you know what?
it.
Maybe we didn't. Maybe we didn't get to
we
all of
got
it,
we
but
got we got to do it again, then, man. People
maybe
can
we.
always
Yeah,
get on that site. They can read that story, man. But
yeah, it's good. It's really good. Yeah, I
thanks,
encourage you.
brother.
So, but yeah, thanks again for everything, Rob. This was good, and I know our listeners are going to get a lot out of it. So appreciate it.
Thank you, Coach.
Well, hey, man, I just encourage all of you to think about this and where is it right now? How is it or isn't it applicable in your life? And when you get a chance to even think about it a little bit more, check out a lot of these resources that Rob has because they're very beneficial. So, thanks again, and as always, we appreciate you listening. And until next time, good stuff.